Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to my Planetarium show for March of 2021. I've got the system set up here with a view over the Cambridgeshire countryside, and we're at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon with the sun high in the sky. And I'm going to let time run forward now, and the sun will set off over towards the west, sink down and head for sunset. There it goes. Gradually the sky will turn to the familiar colours of orange and red of sunset and then darken. And once we get to about 6 o'clock, we should start to see the first stars appearing. The sky's darkening down now. Here we go. There's the first few stars. And there's the familiar winter constellation of Orion, right in the centre of the view there. Just to the left was Sirius, but we're going to start over here at the constellation of Aries. Now, Aries, the ram, is one of the constellations of the zodiac. Not a very prominent one. You can see the stick diagram there has just a few stars in it, and none of them are particularly bright. And there's the representation of the ram. Now, we've chosen to start at Aries, the ram, with it being one of the constellations in which the plane of the solar system lies from the Earth's point of view, the so-called plane of the ecliptic. We're going to plot the line of the ecliptic here, this orange line, and this is where we find the planets. And the first of those for tonight's tour is the planet Uranus. Just off the line here. Here it is as a small green disk, as you'd see it with a small telescope. A medium-sized telescope will show it a bit larger and show up to about 5 of its family of moons. It does many more, but most of the rest are very small. These are named after sprites in Shakespeare's plays. And so we have Oberon, Titania, Miranda, Umbriel and Ariel. And here's the planet itself, very faint pastel green colour with a few cloud belts going around its equator. Not very much by way of features to see on the surface. It also has a family of rings, but they're not visible from the Earth. They're only discovered by the Voyager 2 spacecraft. We'll have a look at the moons. The moons are quite easy to find even with a modest sized telescope, and it's quite interesting to try and track down as many as you can. This one here is Titania, one of the largest ones, and some of these moons are constructed with an ice crust and a liquid water ocean underneath, and so there's potential habitable zones even that far out from the sun. But if we track along the constellation of the ecliptic, we get to the next, which is Taurus. And here's the stick diagram for Taurus the bull. And we'll show the artwork again. You'll see Aries just off the screen to the right, and there's Taurus. I'm afraid the back half of Taurus the bull is missing, but the face is made up out of that triangle of stars, and the bright star there, Aldebaran, is a red giant star, a little bit more massive than our sun and just 47 light years away. 440 light years away, we find the Pleiades star cluster, the Seven Sisters. Lots of bright, hot, blue, white, young stars, and many, many more of the ordinary white and yellow stars like the sun, or even smaller, the little red dwarfs in that cluster. It's a great target for looking at with binoculars. A little too big to see with a telescope. It tends to overflow the field of view and you don't get the full sense of it. So that's the Pleiades there, riding on the back of Taurus the bull. Now over here, by one of the stars of the horns of the bull, we have the Crab Nebula. A little faint, easy to find with the largest telescope, a 10 or 12 inch aperture, and you can get some great photographs of it with a DSLR, showing how the structure within the expanding supernova remnant has all the filamentary lines of gaseous hydrogen lit up pink. So that's the Crab Nebula. Now, just beneath the Pleiades over here, and also next to the plane of the ecliptic, we have another planet, and that is the planet Mars. Now, it's getting a little bit further away from the Earth now as we're accelerating around our orbit and pulling away from it. And we're seeing it 3/4 phase on, rather than the full disk at the moment. Mars has 2 moons, Phobos and Deimos. Deimos is shown there. Phobos is actually behind the planet, at this precise time that we're looking. You can also see on the face of Mars there one of the large volcanoes. It's not the largest in the solar system, the Olympus Mons. It's one of the others over in the Elysium region, but nevertheless quite a big volcano. So we'll pull back away from Mars and Taurus, and you can see Orion there to the left and the bright star Sirius just on the screen at the extreme left. So these are the familiar constellations of the winter sky. And what we're going to do is let time run forward a little bit towards 9 p.m. so that the sky is fully dark, and we'll say goodbye to those as they set down towards the west, and we'll alter our gaze up here just above Orion to the next constellation in the zodiac, and that's Gemini the Twins. You can see the two bright stars at the heads of the stick men there. Those are Castor and Pollux, the two bright stars that lead the constellation. There's the two twins themselves, and you can see the horns of Taurus the bull just on the left there. There's quite a few interesting objects to find in the constellation of Gemini. One of them is another supernova remnant. This is the Jellyfish Nebula. You can see why it's named that way. It looks like the crown of a jellyfish with the tendrils at the bottom there. Here's the Hubble Space Telescope view. We'll bring that in full detail for you. Here it comes. I'm afraid it's been slightly photo-bombed by a satellite there actually, so maybe we won't look at that. Another interesting nebula towards the bottom. There are lots of these lovely nebulae all around this region, so do check out the star charts. Going to the left of Gemini, we get the next constellation around, and this again is not a particularly prominent one in terms of bright stars, but it's the constellation of Cancer the Crab, and very much sits in the gap between Leo and Gemini. Now there's the crab drawn out for you. But it does have one nice little target right in the center, and that's Prasepe, the Beehive Cluster. It's a young open cluster of stars, very much worth looking at, easily seen with binoculars, or even on a really clear night you can see it with the naked eye. Lots of hot blue stars, lesser white stars, and in the background many more sun-like yellow dwarf stars can be seen. So that's the Beehive Cluster, and it's surrounded by that rough rectangle of 4 stars, so you can always tell you're in the right place. We'll pull back a bit more. We've just got Gemini to the top right, and the head of Leo the Lion is just creeping onto the screen at the left there. It's that backwards question mark shape. Pull back a little further. And we'll go and have a look at the constellation of Leo. So you can see the backward question mark shape and the body of Leo the Lion there. It really does look like a lion. And when we're looking in this direction, we're actually looking straight up out of the plane of the galaxy, which is a very short route going out to space. So there's not very much by way of intervening dust. And this makes it a great area to go galaxy hunting. There's a little trio there in the center, M95, 96 and 105. Also one down to the bottom right of the screen. You can go and catch all 4 of those in very short order, all different. Here's another one, NGC 2903, the Catherine wheel, very much a barred spiral, probably very similar to the Milky Way. That's about 30 million light years away, so it's not an enormous distance, but it's certainly outside of our local group of galaxies. So we'll pull back away from there. And have another look just at the tail of Leo the Lion here. We've got an asteroid, the brightest of the asteroids, and if you have a telescope you won't see it like this. This is way too much zoomed in. You'd have to be in orbit round it to see it like this, I think. It's a very tiny target. It's only 500 kilometers across, but it has a magnitude of around 8, and so it's fairly straightforward to find. And the nice thing about tracking down an asteroid is that you can see it moving hour by hour through the constellation. They move relatively quickly against the background of stars. They should be able to pick it up with binoculars. Also, there are so many more galaxy clusters in Leo. I noticed another one just below where Vesta is there, just below the tail of the lion. But what we're going to do is now move on over towards the east, and we'll just take it through the night to 2 o'clock in the morning, and scanning across the sky here, time passing rapidly. Bring it to a halt now, and we should find that around about this time the full moon will be above the horizon. So here's the moon, very close to that other star there, and you can see some of the lovely features on the left hand side, the very bright crater Aristarchus, the brightest feature on the moon. Also see Copernicus and Kepler against the background of the dark grey of the ocean of storms, but it's well worth having a look. And that's over there in the constellation of Libra. Virgo up to the right, and we're just going to be moving up here. There's Virgo. We go up above Virgo, we've got Bootes with the bright star of Taurus, and Ursa Major, the plough. You can always see the plough and Ursa Major from Cambridge, and it's well worth having a look at. You can use the 2 stars at the top right there as pointers to find the pole star. So we'll spin the sky around now, and we've got Ursa Major there, Ursa Minor just to the top right. And we're going to let time run through to dawn now, so the sun's going to come up. So that's a whistle-stop tour of the night sky for the 3rd of March of 2021. Thank you very much.